So we started a new principle last week. We looked at grace connections. We looked at that. We looked at different relationships and relationships that can help us, that can hinder us, and we learned that not all relationships can bring us to breakthrough. That's why we should be so careful with our relationships. If only someone had taught us these things when we were young people, when we were teenagers, taught us to be very judicious and meticulous in the way we choose who we hang around with. Many times the parents have this problem. They'll say, my son is fine, it's just the company that he keeps, except that your son is the company for someone else, right? So some relationships cause great pain, some relationships cause trauma, some cause breakdown rather than breakthrough that continues for years. I've heard of people getting married because they got excited, and all they want to do now is to leave that marriage because it's a traumatic experience for them. They didn't know how to measure to marry a person, and so on. So there are these catastrophic breakdowns people have, and they carry trauma with them, right? So, but there are some relationships that take us from glory to glory, that take us from victory to victory, that take us from adullam all the way into possessing and dominion, Zion. Right? There are some, but of course there's a middle ground in between Adullam and Zion called Hebron. We know the seat of association, the place of joining. Abraham was there. David was there. David got crowned as king. He connected with people in Hebron, right? Who would eventually make him king in Zion, right? So he from there he moved and he ruled in the midst of his enemies. We know that. Now we also know Abraham came to Hebron. I'm just giving a little recap so that we can understand today's context. So Abraham came to Hebron. There he forged new relationships with three people called Mamre, Eshcol and Aner, right? And we know the names mean something, and these relationships input into our lives. They input vigor and fruitfulness and humility into our lives. While they are good, they still can't help us break through. So we are looking to find a relationship of such caliber that can catapult us from our present position into a position of greatness. What do we call that? Breakthrough. That's what breakthrough is. So we are looking for relationships that can change the trajectory of our life. So like I said, some of these relationships can only give you a loan but not the seed. They can give you contact but not the source. So they can only take you so far, but not any further. But you need a relationship. You need a relationship that the moment you associate with them, that actually changes the way you think. And I'm telling you, these relationships are not found so easily. In a world that's rife with people, especially now with the advent of digital life, every one of us have what's called a digital life. So now we should look at the sixth element of prosperity called digital prosperity. It looks like that because now we have digital friends. Any of you are connected with some friends digitally that you don't see them physically anytime? I'm sure on your Facebook and because all these friends on this Facebook are all fake. Yes. You know what's the term fair weather friends? Mm-hmm. People who are around when the weather is fair, right? But we are talking about people who have this caliber, who can literally move you from Adullam, the cave where you are unknown, to Zion where you can possess, right? So that means what? They should have a caliber that's greater than yours and greater than your associations. Okay? They should cause a momentum in your life. What causes momentum, if you remember physics for a bit? There has to be a force from the without, right? Can you have momentum from within? You can't. You need a force without. The physicists have been searching for perpetual momentum. They can't find it. Right? So, and your trajectory, you know what's a trajectory now? If you shoot a rocket, it has a trajectory. That's how much it can go, how much it can escape the gravity before gravity claims it. when we have this festival where they shoot these rockets and burst these crackers, you see the rocket will go, it will have a trajectory and then gravity will claim it, right? But the gravity of your situation will not claim you when you meet these people. Your trajectory will be different. You might be coming into the grasp of the gravity of your situation, but one association with this person will just change you automatically. And it's nothing short of a miracle. It's called a breakthrough. You're breaking away from the gravity of your situation. Many of us Indians have a gravity of poverty, if not financial, of mentality. We have what's called a poverty mentality. We need to break off that gravity, right? So, your associations thus far, if you're not broken through, you should already be smart enough to know they're not going to help me break through anymore. That's why when you say I'm going out, I'm going to hang out with someone, I'm going out for a trip with someone, my question always to you is, can they change you or can you change them? It has to be one or the other. You cannot go into a place of mediocrity, or not mediocrity, what am I looking for? A status quo. Either you'll go up or you'll go down. You never stand. Do you know that? Right? You know, why do we say don't indulge in pornography? Why do we say that? Because it's a sin, Pastor, you know, we are very holy people. Yeah, all that is fine. But what happens chemically to your brain? Do you know your frontal lobe gets affected every time you have excess of that dopamine and excess happening? Your frontal lobe gets disconnected and you will not be able to think. The next thing you're thinking is how you can get the next shot that will be higher than the previous one. You get it? It's a chemical, it's a physical thing. Yes, it is a spiritual thing. Yes, it's a mental thing as well. But physically, you will not be able to think. You will degrade. Do you know why we say read books? You know, when you watch on a television, I like to watch, as do most of you. When you watch on a television, your imagination is suspended. You don't have to imagine what you're seeing. Can you imagine my shirt is black? You don't have to. It is black. You can see it. But imagine that you can't see this image and I'm telling you, you know, in your head, you know, either if it's storytelling or reading, imagine if you will. And you have to employ imagination. But the problem is this generation cannot imagine because this generation doesn't read. The attention span, no, don't worry, we're going to get into the people of caliber who can show you. But what I'm trying to prove is the attention span of people is dropping. I remember when we would read, I mean, I'm talking about me personally, let me just, and some of my peers, my brother, me, we would read for hours. Whether it's fiction or non-fiction doesn't matter. You know why? Possibly also because there was no television. I mean, there was Doordarshan, Saturdays, Sundays and Wednesdays. Wednesday evening Chitrahar, or probably Thursday, who knows. So reading, we would read. We have library in school, we would take a book and read and read and read. We would just read. Why? Because nothing else to do. So I know that I would get knocked on my head and my brother would get knocked on the head because we would read while we were eating. Right? And we get one knock, say, eat, don't read. Now we should knock and say read. That attention span of couple of hours drop down, right? Now, 1.5 hour movie, 2 hours movie, you get the whole gist of a book. That's why never judge a book by its movie. That 1.5 hours now dropped down to YouTube videos, 15-20 minutes, right? Now I notice people can't even spare 15 minutes. They want what's called YouTube shorts, which is what? How many seconds? 10 seconds? 15, 20 seconds? You can't get anyone's attention. Someone was saying endlessly scrolling. I didn't understand what it is until I realized apparently the YouTube short fills your phone perfectly. It's been designed to captivate you for 15 seconds, after which you have to move on to the next. Apparently people can spend hours being entertained 15 seconds at a time. What's happening? The frontal lobe is shut down. See, why am I bringing that parallel? When you are with certain people, if they never change your trajectory and you believe this is the way it is, then that's it. You will not break through. So you have to identify. I'm not saying chuck off relationships. I'm just saying grade them. I'm just saying manage your time with them. I will not spend time with someone who doesn't encourage me. Why would I go to a black hole and have all my life and light sucked out of me? Right? So we need to have this nature where we actually care about ourselves. We should care about ourselves. Let's turn to Genesis 38. Today, we're going to look at a strange chapter in the Bible that is out of place. So, the story starts with Joseph, Jacob and his children, and then Joseph. It gives us a beautiful story of Joseph and all the things that's happening with Joseph, right? And now we are very excited about Joseph because we like stories, we like storytelling. Now, so funny. Chapter 37 and verse 36 says, it goes on to tell all the things, and then now the Midianites have sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and the captain of the guard. So now we are on the edge of our seats, know what's going to happen next to Joseph, and then wedged in between that selling and his life is a story that what is it doing there? What is this story being wedged in between 37 and 39? Genesis 38. Now you must have read this before. If you didn't, we'll read it today, or rather I will summarize it for you. Between the stories, see now, Joseph is a very important character in the deliverance and the movement of Israel. Deliverance from famine, but movement into the word that was prophesied to Abraham, that your people will get stuck in a place. Joseph was necessary for the prophecy to come to pass. So this is not some ordinary person. If couple of chapters are dedicated to him, you must understand this guy is like, big deal. But if a story is wedged in between his story, God wants your attention. Hey, read the Bible the way it should be read. It is not some hodgepodge, however you say it, of stories just put in there. No, everything is very decisive. So this is a story of Judah. Anyone know who's Judah? Son of Jacob / Israel, right? So Judah, now this is the story of Judah. So the Bible says Judah, he departed from his brother and visited a certain Adulamite. Interesting to note. Who did he visit? He visited a cave dweller. Adulamite doesn't mean a cave dweller, but in the context of David and Adullam and moving to Zion, last week you remember I told you, be careful of Adullam relationships that will keep you in poverty mentality, that will not let you engage in the purposes of God. You remember that, right? So he met an Adulamite whose name was Hira. Okay? The Bible goes on to say that he had a son, his name was Er. Then he had another son, his name was Onan, right? Then he had another son, his name was Shelah. So now the Er took a wife, that is Judah's son took a wife. Okay. Her name was Tamar. So what happened is Er died. Right? Because he was wicked, the Bible says. It doesn't give us too much story on what happened, but he died because he was wicked. Basically, he sowed and he reaped. But he died without leaving a son. So, in the old tradition, it was like this. If your brother's wife did not leave inheritance of a son, that is to carry the name. Why? Because he's the firstborn. Remember, the firstborn has to carry the name. So, if your brother's wife did not leave, the second brother had to become her husband, and that son would be dedicated as a firstborn. So, he literally would lose his seed as such. So, he does something very evil, selfish, doesn't care about his brother. Remember, family is first, but he doesn't care about family. So, what he does is, he enjoys himself with the wife. He doesn't say, no, I don't want to marry her. He could have said that. He enjoys himself, but when it comes time to give the seed, he doesn't. He pulls out. And the Bible says he spills his seed. That means I'd rather let it go to waste than build my brother's legacy. Guess what happens to that fellow? Hey, he dies. Hey, you do wicked things, you die. And then, but this is a young boy, his name is Shela, he's young. So they send her to her in-laws house, to her house and say, go back. When he's of age, we'll tell you. But when he does come of age, they don't tell her. Right? So that's where we catch the story. Okay. So we are in verse 12. Now in the process, that is Genesis 38 verse 12. Now in the process of time, the Bible is very raw, isn't it? I mean, it's not curated for your sensibilities. It's not curated to take your feelings into consideration. It's not, that holy and religious book that you thought it is. I mean, look at this nonsense that's happening right here. Come on. You know what the Bible is saying? The Bible is showing the state of affairs. Right? So, verse 12 says, now in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted, went up to his sheep shearers at Timnah. He and his friend Hira, the Adullamite, Adullamite, remember your friends decide your destiny, right? And when I say your friends decide your destiny, I mean they help in making sure that your trajectory is what it is, right? And it was told Tamar, look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. So she took off her widow's garments, covered herself with a veil, wrapped herself, sat in an open place which was on the way to Timnah, for she saw that Shelah was grown, but she was not given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a harlot, that's a prostitute, because she had covered her face. Then he turned to her by the way and said, please let me come into you, for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. So she said, what will you give me that you may come into me? And he said, I will send you a young goat from the flock. Right? So she said, will you give me a pledge till you send it? Then she said, what pledge shall I give you? So she said, your signet and your cord and your staff that is in your hand. Then he gave them to her and went in to her, and she conceived by him. Listen to this now. Pay attention to this. She is a widow. She dresses up as a prostitute and sits on this. This is the story of Jesus. See, we may be widows. We may not have a covering. We may be prostitutes. We may be dirty as such, sitting on the street, and yet God comes to us. He gives us his staff, his signet ring, his cord. He establishes us. He gives us his seed. Hey, read the Bible the way it should be read. This is talking about Jesus. Before you get yuckified with what you read, before you get, this is gross. Bollywood movies are grosser. Yeah. Especially the ones that show every day, that half an hour serials. Yeah. So this is talking about Jesus. Jesus has to be the theme through the Bible. Yeah. Can you see Jesus? Forget Judah and Tamar. Can you see Jesus? Can you see the church? Can you see yourself? The only thing you can do is dress up as a prostitute because that's who you are. But he takes you. He establishes you, right? So this is what happened now, right? This is what happened. We are talking about people of caliber, right? We are talking about people of caliber. So that means to develop people of caliber, there has to be a habitat, there has to be an environment, there has to be a culture, right? Where these relationships of caliber can be developed and you can access it, right? So now, this is what happened. Tamar, her womb is such a place. Her womb is that place. Why? Because Tamar means palm tree. Now you know what it talks about the palm tree? It talks about the foliage. It talks about how it goes deep, how it provides. Right? You remember we studied on the 70 palms, right? When we did the series called Flourish. You see the church in Acts, they never lacked. You know that? Because they were connected to such relationships of caliber that they never lacked. The Bible says that. They never lacked. Each had. Right? Because there was a culture there. There was a culture established that strengthens and forges and accelerates you. That lifts you up, establishes you. You need relationships like that. You can't have relationships that only agree with you. You don't want yes men and yes women. It should quicken you. Acts 2:42 culture, remember that? This culture is important. That means, I am telling you, in your house when you have this culture, don't take it lightly. We've been talking about it for years now, for a decade. Have this culture in your house, and when you do, you will connect with people of caliber who can propel your entire family. So this culture is the incubator. It's the incubator that these kind of people are brought from, nurtured. Right? So Tamar means palm tree. So this womb of Tamar is able to nurture, handle Judah's seed. And Judah stands for the principle of first. Remember that. Who went first in battle? Judah. Who stopped Joseph from being killed? Judah. Who joined Benjamin and Joseph? Judah. You see, there is this element of Christ over there as well. We'll not get into that right now. But you understand, Judah is important. So to handle Judah's seed, you need a very special environment. Right? A special environment. And when you meet these people of this caliber, you'll know them. So in this womb, there are twins. It is found that there are twins in this womb. Now remember, there was another womb that had twins before? Yes. Rachel, right? But in her womb, the twins were fighting each other. Yeah. So much so, Jacob beat him that Esau became all red. Huh? Right? Huh? Rebecca, sorry, not Rachel, Rebecca. Yeah. Right? It was when the first came out, the second came holding the heel, saying, I will hold you back so that my interests and my things can be fulfilled. Hey, they were not brothers. Family was not first. You understand what's happening over here? You see what's happening over here. Excuse me. They're in the same womb. They're in the same environment. And yet, each one for himself. Every man for himself. When the brother is famished, instead of giving him, he barters and buys. Hey, when your brother is famished, you should just give. Why would you want? If God has said you will be the firstborn, even if you came second from the womb, you'll be the firstborn. Don't you know God? You don't have to manufacture your miracle. You don't have to manufacture, or you don't have to help God along with His promise. God said it, I will do it. No. God will do it. You have to catch this now. So, these twins, I'll do anything to get ahead. I will hate you. It went on to the generations. But not so with Tamar. Not so with Tamar. Look at verse 27 of 38. Now it came to pass, verse 27 of Genesis 38. Now it came to pass at the time for giving birth that behold, twins were in her womb. Behold, twins were in her womb. So it was when she was giving birth that the one put out his hand. So when the first one put out his hand, what is he called? He is called the firstborn. When the first one put out the hand, what is he called? So what all the rights should be? Firstborn rights to him, right? Okay, just letting you know. He put his hand out. So what? Where is it? I lost my place. No, I know, but I just lost it on the... there it is. So put his hand out. And the midwife took a scarlet thread, pay attention, crimson thread, red thread, and bound it on his hand, saying, the one came out first. Then it happened, as he drew his hand back, his brother came out unexpectedly. And she said, how did you break through? This breach be upon you. Therefore his name was called Perez. Afterward, his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was Zerah. Look at this relationship. The firstborn makes a way for his brother to break through. You get it? What relationship is this where you will sacrifice your firstborn rights so your brother can go through? Where the other held his heel to take his firstborn rights. The nurse said, how did you break through? How did you break through? I had a brother. Pay attention now. You need relationships that will help you break through. Okay? She tied a scarlet thread. That means you need someone who has a scarlet thread on their hand with you. You need someone who has a scarlet thread on your hand. Now I'm talking symbolically. Now I'm not talking about that Hindu temple where they wear a red thing. Please don't go off now to some temple and tie a thread on your hand. I'm just clarifying it because people are creative. You need a relationship with a person who has a scarlet thread. That is a sign that that person sacrificed for you. That's it. Right? But if you look at the scarlet thread, do you know it is there in the Bible? If you look at Genesis, when Adam and Eve, when they sinned, they tried to cover themselves with fig leaves, and God said, no, 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 that won't do. The skin of an animal, blood has to cover you, scarlet thread, right? When Abraham went to offer Isaac on the mountain, remember that. He dreamed of this, he wanted this, he desired this, he got it, and God said, offer. When he was about to, there was a ram present, a scarlet thread, right there. In Egypt, just before going for the Exodus, before getting out, what they had to put on the lentils? The blood on the doorposts to signify that they are different. What is that? The scarlet thread, right? What about Rahab, the harlot? What did they tell her to tie on her windowsill to identify that this is the one that should not be touched? Scarlet thread. Literally a scarlet thread. Why scarlet? Do you understand? Do you understand? So, you need relationships. You need relationships. You know, when John saw Jesus, he said, behold the Lamb of God. Was he just making statements like that, or did he know that lamb is sacrificed and therefore this is a scarlet thread? Yes. So you need relationships, a scarlet thread relationships that are unique. And you won't find it everywhere. Trust me. You won't find it anywhere. Why? Because these, they will cover your nakedness. They will fight for you. They will make sure that you won't be exposed. Can you tell the kids to be quiet, please? They will make sure that you won't be exposed, that how do I put it? Your weakness is exposed. Hey, you sinned. Yes, you sinned. You listened to the serpent. Yes, you did. But you cover it. You see, as a pastor, I've heard some things. Some things that I will take to my grave. Why? We cover. You have to cover. A person who carries a scarlet thread has to cover. He covers the nakedness. You don't expose the nakedness. You know. People will tell you the truth, right? Some of them will tell you the truth because they love you. Some of them tell you the truth because they're mocking you. Have you noticed that? They will tell you the truth to make fun of you. Not so that you'll become better, to put you down. But there are some who will tell you the truth honestly so you can become better. Be careful of the latter, the one who tells you the truth because you have to put you down. Be careful of that. Do you understand what I mean by that? Have people come and no, see, listen, I'm just telling you the truth. I have nothing to lose. Basically, they're putting you in your place. Not so with the one who carries the scarlet thread. He will tell you the truth so that you can become a better person. Not to mock you, not to put you down. A scarlet thread friend or a relationship is with you in the darkest moments of your time. When the thing that you desired, you wanted, you really cared about, you have to sacrifice. He'll be there. We'll be there. That's how you know. That's why they are far and few between. A scarlet thread friend will make sure that you can transition properly. That you can move properly from a place of slavery to a place of possession. A scarlet thread friend can warn you. Remember, stay indoors, stay inside. Because something is going to happen outside. Remember, when the angel passed, you have to be inside. Something will happen outside. He'll warn you. Even with Rahab, he'll say, you'll be identified. A scarlet thread relationship will identify you as the one who should not be touched. You and your family will not be touched. Why? Because of that. Right? You get it? And when you see that scarlet thread relationship for the first time, you will say, behold, this is the nature of the Lamb. Not the Lamb because He carries the nature of the Lamb. So what is the identifier of the scarlet thread relationship? He carries the nature of the Lamb. He carries the nature of Christ. Let's turn to Matthew chapter 5 verse 38. Okay. Matthew 5, 38. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, not to resist an evil person, but whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other to him also. If anyone wants to sue you and take away your tunic, let him have your cloak. Whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to him who asks from him, and who wants to borrow from you, do not turn away. You have heard it said, you shall love your neighbor, hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, sends rain on the just and on the unjust. See, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. Right? You have to do all these things so that you can be sons of your Father in heaven. In context, I'm telling you, he's talking to disciples, right? Just so that you know. He's not talking to the multitudes. He's talking to his disciples. And do these things penetrate your heart? I mean, these are hard stuffs to do. See, when it talks about slapping, showing your cheek, it's not talking about you to be foolish and to get kicked around by the world. You have to understand this in context. At some other point, we'll talk about it, but I'll just touch upon it. It's not saying be foolish. If someone slaps you, don't defend yourself. Remember, we spoke about the 10 commandments or 10 words. It doesn't say don't kill. It just says don't murder. Right? Being alive is up to you. Because you get slapped on your cheek every time and turn the other cheek. I mean, you'll have red cheeks. No, it's not telling get used. No, be aware. But it is saying, when someone slaps you, you are not deciding it, they are deciding it. You should decide to do some things. That's what it's saying. Right? So, that means, he is saying, you should do these things. A scarlet thread relationship will do these things. He will go the extra mile. You ask the tunic, he'll give the cloak. He will be there for you. He, she. Right? You need to identify this. Now, Zerah, look at Zerah. He put his hand out. So, someone asked Zerah, hey, how did you break through? What was his answer? Sorry, someone asked Perez, how did you break through? What was his answer? He said, there was a Zerah in my life. See, Zerah is the reason for a breakthrough. So you need a Zerah in your life. You need a scarlet thread relationship. Someone has to go first. Someone has to be the breaker. May not get all the glory of the breaker. May not get the recognition of the breaker. May not even get praises. May not even be remembered. But God will never forget. God will never forget you. People may forget. People may forget. I have helped people break through. I personally have helped people break through in so many things. They have forgotten me. But God will never forget me. Right? I've established people in businesses. Today they're thriving in business. Why? Because I established them. I helped them break through. I didn't see one lick of any reward from that. But God will not forget. Man can forget. So you should not get scared. You should not get scared. See, these relationships I'm talking about cannot be found in the world. You cannot go out into the universities and your cafes and your friend circle that is outside the church and find it. No, no, no. This is found in the family. I'll ask you a question. Can you portray the nature of the Lamb in your family? Your biological family I'm talking about. Can you? Oh, before you answer yes, no, the Lamb is sacrificed. Just know that. Do you have a scarlet thread on your hand that you can help someone else break through? Oh, but Pastor, we thought we were talking about my breakthrough. I'll tell you something. In your house, you have to teach your children. Right? You teach them by example. You teach them by conversation. You teach them by dialogue. You have to teach your children. You have to talk about salvation. You have to talk about all these things, kingdom, dominion, Christ. You can't leave it to chance. You have to. Why? You are tying a scarlet thread on their hand. You're giving them the greatest gift they can have. You think your money and your inheritance is a gift? It is. But it doesn't beat inheritance in the Lord. You should be careful. So breakthroughs, they come because of the scarlet thread relationships. Not some frivolous relationship that you have. Look at Moses. He prepared the way for Joshua. Look at David. He prepared the way for Solomon. And today it's called Solomon's temple, not David's temple. But David prepared. David fought. David brought peace that Solomon enjoyed. David lived a life of blood so his son could have a life of peace. David prepared so Solomon could have a name. You think that Hiram of Tyre, you think he just helped Solomon because he feared him or because of a relationship with David? You see that? So the breaker is the father. The father breaks so the son can enjoy. That's the point. See, when the Passover lamb, you should eat the whole lamb. You know that, right? Not just the good parts. The whole lamb you should eat. The bitter herbs you should eat. Why? You don't just say, the good things, the blessings, the promises I will eat. No, there are some hard times that will come in the Lord. You take it. Hey, there are some sacrifices. You take it. You take it. You see, you need people like this who are able to take the entire thing. You need to become people who will take the entire thing. You get it? So I pray that you understood what was spoken today. I pray that you will learn how to judge relationships. I pray that you will understand that scarlet thread relationships are very precious. Right? And as you search the Bible, you will find it there. So may the Lord bless this word to you. May the Lord keep you. God bless you.